Welcome back to another episode of the Game Changer Unlocked, where we explore the minds and methods behind true transformation in leadership, performance, and purpose. I'm your host, Brian Fetzer. Today's guest is a visionary leader, best-selling author, creative force, and one of the most dynamic communicators of our time, Erwin McManus. Born in El Salvador, raised in the United States, he has really made his journey anything but ordinary. He's a lead pastor of Mosaic Church in Los Angeles, a global voice in faith and innovation, and the author of powerful books like The Way of the Warrior, The Genius of Jesus, and his latest Mind Shift. But Erwin isn't just a pastor. He's a filmmaker, a fashion designer, an entrepreneur, high-level consultant to the NFL, to the Pentagon, and leaders in business and culture. At the core of all of it is one mission: helping people break free from limitations and unlock the future that they were created for. Today, we're diving into leadership, adversity, mindset, and the deep inner work required to lead others well. Get ready for an honest, powerful conversation with someone who doesn't just teach transformation, he lives it. Erwin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, so glad to be with you, Brian.
Hey, so I want to talk about your background, and we were sharing just a little bit ago that growing up in Miami, and how did your early life journey kind of shape how you approach leadership right now?
Uh, well, that's a kind of a big question in so many ways, right? Because all of life shapes who we are. And I guess the big strokes are I was born in San Salvador, El Salvador, and I'm an immigrant to the United States. Spanish was my first language. I learned English here. Moved to Queens first from El Salvador, I believe it was, and then Miami, and lived there till I was around 15 years old. Um, and some of the personal, dynamics are I never knew my real father. My mom and my father separated when she was pregnant with me. And so I grew up not really having that connection. My mom remarried to a man named Bill McManus. And so I think in that, I always had a sense of disconnection. Being from a different country, even my name is an alias that I was given later. Not knowing my real father, there was just a lot of points where my own sense of identity, my sense of self, was looking for a place to connect. And I would say I was not a leader. And growing up, I was, but I was not a follower. I was completely disconnected. I was very much like a lone wolf kind of guy, super quiet, super introverted, incredibly reclusive. I ended up in a psychiatric chair by the time I was 10 years old and in and out of a hospital during that time. I barely graduated from high school. I went through school with a straight D average. I didn't go to college right away. I just worked endless odd jobs until I came to a point of being at the end of myself going, I got to do something with my life. And that's when I begged my way into college and found I could not qualify to go to school. I mean, I literally walked into administration office and convinced them to let me into the university. And I think that's when I began to access different components of my own agency at a higher level. When I decided I needed to do something with my life, I needed to make a change. I needed to create a course that created a future I wanted. And so that ended up being kind of the beginning point. And then in college, I became a person of faith. And that for me was very, very pivotal because I wasn't really looking for faith. I was looking for significance. I was looking for meaning. I was trying to determine whether my life had any intention or purpose. And for me, faith was the culmination of you're created with intention. You're here to make a difference. And it's your personal responsibility to access your gifts and talents, your intelligence, whatever, components you have that make you the highest version of yourself and to use that to make the world better. And so that was sort of my short version journey toward my I think the beginning of my leadership experience.
You mentioned some mental health kind of struggles early on. How do you personally currently today take care of the issues that we all deal with?
Yeah, I don't really know if I consider those things issues the way other people do.
Mm.
I consider them ingredients in what makes me uniquely me. And
Love it.
so I think a
Great
lot
way.
of people think you have the healthy you and then you have the unhealthy you. You have the person that you like and the person you don't like, or however you want to describe that. And I just think it's a part of the cocktail that makes you really, really unique. So I don't think of myself as, oh, when I'm happy, I'm the version of me that's the best. And if I'm sad or disappointed, that's something I need to work through and get out of. I actually think the full spectrum of human emotions are what make life so interesting. And to me, it's what makes life valid, that I can feel deeply. And so I don't really think of it as mental health issues. I think of them as a spectrum of human experiences that allow me to become a more textured, interesting, and deep human being.
How does your faith tie into that, into building the resilience kind of in a tough time? I mean, what you described is going through the early stages of life, definitely not normal and definitely not the average. But and you said you didn't have faith at that point in time.
Well, I
But
didn't say I didn't have faith.
okay,
I didn't have belief.
big difference, very big
There,
difference.
there
Yep.
is a difference, and I think a lot of people, when they think about faith, they're actually talking about belief, and that they have a certain belief system, that they believe in a religion or a philosophy or ideology. And I think actually the dynamic of faith is is a more powerful force, and in that, and then maybe how it shapes self-belief. Because if I believe in God, it doesn't necessarily change the way I live my life.
Mm.
But if I believe in what God says about me, it changes the way I live my life. And so I think there's a dynamic um, and profound connection between our need for identity and our connection to God. Because if I think every human being is searching for identity. We're all trying to figure out who we are, where we're from, what we're about. And if it's based on success or wealth or fame or power or accomplishment, that identity is so fragile that the moment something goes wrong, you have a shattered identity. But for me, what happened was it shifted my entire journey toward worth. That now I believed that I was fully and completely loved, that I was unconditionally accepted, that I didn't have to work for love. I could work from love. I didn't have to strive for significance. I could work from significance. And so all those for me were really fundamental shifts, and they really made a huge difference because I made a lot of decisions that people didn't like or didn't believe in or thought I was out of my mind. I mean, if you're going to live a pioneering life, if you're going to be at all inventive or entrepreneurial or innovative, the majority of people are going to disagree with you.
True.
And if your identity is rooted in how other people feel, about you and what they think about you and whether they accept you, and then you actually limit your God-given capacity. And so for me, the shift was my acceptance and my value, my identity is rooted in the relationship I have with Jesus Christ. And now I can go for broke because failing isn't going to change my value. Failing isn't going to change my identity. My identity is the same when I have huge success, and my identity is the same when I have massive failure. And I've had both.
Yeah, it's a very interesting perspective to put it there. I mean, and we're all going to have failures without question. Um, Interesting, there's so much to unpack with all the stuff that you're saying. When I mean, you deal with leaders constantly,
Mhm.
um, and dealing with the struggles that they feel. When you just said that entrepreneurs, people that are making those decisions, what are words of wisdom, to help them under that pressure? where they're dealing with making a choice that's going to be unpopular per se.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different dynamics involved in those kind of moments, but usually I would say close to 100% of the time, I'm going to go at that high level. When you're dealing with a high level leader, they already know what to do.
Mm.
And so you're not really taking them through a process to figure out what to do. They're trying to figure out how to mitigate the consequences.
Very true. Very true statement.
Yeah. And 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 the only reason they would ever get paralyzed is when they're trying to control things that are outside of their control. And and so the shift you have to help a person make is don't look for the answer that will give you the most success. Look for the answer that is true to who you are.
Wow.
Because if you choose a pathway that is not true to who you are and you succeed, you will never enjoy a single moment of that success. But if you choose a pathway that is true to who you are, even in failure, you'll have a deep resonance with the value and importance of what you did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We'll be right back with more from Erwin McManus. Up next, we'll talk about leading through adversity and what it takes to stay steady when everything around you feels very uncertain. We'll be right back.